Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Better Events Podcast. This is Mary Davidson, one of your co hosts. And in today's episode, we are talking all about the Better Events Conference 2024. We know you've heard a lot about it lately, but in this episode, we give you a recap. So whether you attended or you did not, this episode is for you. It gives you a behind the scenes peek about the event. And there's lots of lessons to be learned along the way, which we also share about in this episode. So let's go ahead and get into it.
Welcome to the Better Events Podcast. Join two event strategists, Logan Clements and Mary Davidson, who believe we can all create, host, and attend better events. In this podcast, you will learn about event strategy and actions that you can use today as an event host, planner, or manager. Hear directly from the people who are creating innovative and inspiring events today and tomorrow, and grow your business along the way. Now, let's get started, and thanks for listening to the Better Events Podcast.
Hi, friends. Welcome back to another episode of the Better Events Podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Logan Clements, and I'm joined by fellow co-host Mary Davidson. And before we get into, I get feeling Mary every episode I say I'm so excited, but this one's a really fun one. We're going to reflect on the Better Events Conference that we just did last month. But Mary, first, conversation starter. This one is a fun one. I'm giggling already at it. Mary, if you could talk to animals, but only could talk to one kind or type of animal, what would it be and why?
Well, very out there question, but I love it. So, I would say, so yes, if I could have a superpower, there are a few that I would have, and one would probably be to talk to animals. So with that in mind, I'm very excited about this. And I would say maybe like birds that like fly in the sky. Like I don't want to narrow it down, like a crow or a robin or a seagull, like those types of animals, only because I feel like they could give me a lot of really helpful information because they fly and they can get places really quickly. And I feel like they could, come and tell me something exciting. So, and also they're really good at like finding things like crows. Like if you train them, they can like find money on the street and bring it to you. There's like a bunch of videos about it. So I don't know. We could probably create a business partnership, me and the crows. So that's what I'm going to say.
I love that you said that because you're saying specifically you can only talk to one type of bird, right? Not all birds, just.
Yeah, not all birds. I should narrow it down. So yeah, I'll say crows. They're smart.
Okay. Because Mary, you said that, and my instinct when I was thinking of this is the first thing I would not want to be able to hear is birds.
Oh no. Because they're
Mainly
so loud.
because
They say so much. Yeah.
Yeah,
I guess
I
you
feel
can't
like,
talk to birds. That's the thing though. There are parrots, but that's different.
but if you can talk to them, you can also like you'd hear their conversations, and it would just like the amount of chatter that would be in your life.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, if I could talk to one, I feel like I go the silly route and be like, I'd want to speak whale, talk to the whales, but they're so hard to find. So I think it would be, not a very useful animal for me to talk to.
But life-changing. Imagine the stories they would tell you.
Imagine this. I know, because they'd be old and be like, that's kind of
Yeah.
cool.
They'd probably be very wise.
Yeah, let's go with whale. I feel like for this, I'm very hesitant to add more chatter into my life. I'm thinking of like the context Mary I have is like from living abroad was how much your ears perk up when you hear English if you aren't in a country that speaks English all the time. But I've talked about with my partner that he couldn't speak Chinese, and he's like, it was just nice because like background noise just became background noise when you're around languages you don't understand. It's just kind of a hum. But then being back in America, he was like, I can understand everyone around us. It's very distracting to like hear bits and pieces of conversation. So I think I'd be hesitant to add any inputs. But I like your idea with the crows. It's very
Thank you. At
functional.
first you judged it, and now you like it. Thank you.
Yeah. If you can dial it into the exact breed, yes. If it was all birds, I'd tell you you're going to go crazy.
Yeah, I could see that. That was fun. Thank you for entertaining the conversation starter. Now we are going to talk about why we picked this topic. We love doing this episode. We did it last year, so this is our second time doing it because as we have a Better Events Conference, we like to recap it with you. And as this was the second annual Better Events Conference, it's time for our second recap. And so in this episode, we're going to just kind of do a little discussion, share some takeaways with you and some lessons learned, and then just some little recaps about the conference. So whether you attended it or you didn't, this is still going to be a fun episode, and you get a little peek behind the curtain about what happened there. So we're excited to get into it.
Yeah. And before we start that discussion, we do want to remind you, if you are a member of our private community, you're not getting just one episode today. You're actually getting two, because it's our bonus pod day on the 15th of every month. We drop an exclusive episode just for our private community. And so if you're not a paid member of our paid community, please visit the link in the show notes to Substack to join for just $75 a year. And I think my call to action for any listeners is, if you found that you've gotten $75 a year of value out of this free podcast, I think you're going to love the bonus content. All right. And so, Mary, let's jump into our debrief of the 2024 Better Events Conference. Overall, how are you feeling about our second ever Better Events Conference?
Oh, I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling really happy that we tried something new. And I think that might be my overall like takeaway from the whole thing, is that we tried some new things, not just for the conference. A lot of it's new since it's only our second one, but a lot of things we were just like, let's try it and see if this works, because it's an audience that like can kind of understand that. And so I think overall I'm feeling like we were brave and that we tried things. And and I'm really, really proud of the content as well, which I think we've talked about a lot. So those are kind of my immediate reactions. Logan, how about you? How are you feeling about our second annual Better Events Conference?
Yeah, it was, I mean, double the days. And so I felt like I felt double the love, and uh, double the just like overwhelming of the positive feedback that we got in the moment, which was amazing. But I will also admit to everyone, it was double the work. Like, the big change that we had from last year, this year, is we added an in-person day, and that was really fun. It opened up a lot of different, opportunities. And like Mary said, things that we got to try out that we weren't able to do when we were 100% virtual. But it also added a lot of work. It was double the days of content, double the days of speakers and logistics, and just stuff that I remember being like, wow, even an event person can kind of underestimate a little bit of how much effort it takes to put on an event like this. But I will say, that's just the little caveat. I also was overwhelmingly excited and happy about it. And just like loving that we took the opportunity to do this and put all the energy into doing it, because I felt like we felt the payoff.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you said that. Definitely a lot of work, but lots of, fuzzy feelings as always. So we want to share some takeaways that we got from our attendees. And so we do a survey and we ask them some questions. So we're just going to share like a little bit of snippet. But one thing that's fun to share is that 100% of our attendees who took the survey said that they felt welcomed and included. And that was something that we asked based on actually one of the sessions that we had on the in-person day, talking about the importance of making sure people who come to your events feel welcome and included. And so we're really happy to hear that. Honestly, if somebody didn't, we're like open to that feedback as well, of course,
Totally.
but we're really happy that that was the response. And that was definitely something we were trying to help, is to really like have something that like resonates with everyone and they feel like that they can be there. So that was exciting for me. Logan, do you want to share one of our other takeaways or comments?
Yeah, we had this from TJ, who's a member of our paid community as well. We love hearing from TJ. Logan and Mary, once again, you two should be very proud of yourselves. Wildly successful from my participant standpoint. Mad props to Luke and Caitlin, who probably handled so much behind the scenes. And that is another thing. We said it, I think, last year, but like, I am always so happy that we have people behind the scenes like Luke and Caitlin who help us produce and manage the event while we're trying to be speakers and facilitators. So yeah, shout out to them. They definitely were very helpful.
Yeah, and shout out to like the event pros that attended for acknowledging them. Like there were a handful of people throughout the day in the comments that would say, "Hey Luke, I know you're back there doing your thing." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is so fun," because like they do know, like these are the people who actually know what's going on behind the scenes to an extent, right? And so that was actually kind of fun. Um, our next little comment that we got was one from Jackie that said the notepads with our names, wooden badges, and stickers were a fun souvenir to take with us. So this was from the in-person day, our first day of the conference. And Logan, I think we had some fun with the swag. We tried not to go crazy with the swag. We kept it pretty simple, but I think we did good. I'm happy with it, and it sounds like Jackie was too.
Yeah, people really liked it. We did, for those who didn't join us in person, we did personalized notepads, not notebooks, but notepads that, as any planner loves, putting it on their clipboard. And we were able to personalize it with attendees' names and their company, which was pretty fun. But yeah, I'm glad to know we love intentional swag, things that you will actually use. Mary and I also were just big on like not wanting to waste our own time or resources if it was something we personally didn't need. So our last comment here that we'll share with you is from Lorraine, who's telling us to host next year in Boston. Lorraine, I love this.
I
I
thought that
also
was
am like,
hilarious. Oh my
gonna
gosh.
take more time, but we're it's not off the table, Lorraine. Okay.
Bring us to Boston. How about that? Like, help us out. Let's go to Boston, but we're gonna need help if that's the case. But I love it. I love a big dream, right? So let's definitely put it in there.
There we go. We're manifesting it.
Yep.
Mary, would you say that we achieved our goals or North Star for this conference?
I think so. And correct me if I'm wrong, Logan. I'm trying to like our goals are pretty clear in my head, but I think this year they were the same as they were the first year in the sense that we hope that people like learned 3 new things and met 3 new connections, and so I definitely think that we provided multiple opportunities. If somebody left the event and didn't make 3 new connections, I think that's on them. Not to be rude, but like we really, really gave ample opportunity to meet a lot of people. And so I'm happy with that one. I think that's a wonderful goal. But we also had the theme of growth this year. So we've kind of shifted some of our goals, if you will, our North Star content around that theme. And I definitely think I think if anything, we just like really, really, really talked about growth. Did we talk about it too much? I don't know, but it was kind of the point of like most of the things that we did. And so I think that we kept true to that theme throughout our planning, which you could say perhaps is part of our North Star. But Logan, what about you? Do you think we achieved the goals in North Star?
I do. And I think I mean, just thinking about the first one of like make 3 new connections with people, like as a takeaway for you listeners for your events, we didn't just do one networking session and be like, that's where they should meet 3 people. Like we gave several different interactive sessions with to take the pressure off of like they need to meet 3 people in this next 30 minutes to they had the whole day to meet 3 people, and we gave them at least 4 or 5 opportunities to make those connections. For example, from everything from our conversation starters that we did both virtually and in person. And listeners, people loved it in person. They loved it virtually. They even more loved it in person as a just silly, non-event related, not really even growth. None of them were growth related, right, Mary? I think we did one question on growth, but the others were like, one was silly about your most used kitchen utensil. And I still love this to this day that an anecdote from an attendee was they then bonded with 3 people about air fryers. And that was like, at the end of the day, they're still talking about air fryers with these 4 people that they talked with. And we even did assigned seating at lunch, which I think was really nice to mix it up and put people to sit with other folks. Like we gave ample opportunity to help us achieve that goal. And we didn't put the pressure on ourselves to be like, they have to learn all 3 things or meet all 3 people in this one session, or even the all 3 things part. My pep talk to speakers was they have all day to learn 3 things. They just need to, you got to hope that one thing you say resonates with these people. And then, they'll build on it. And I think that I'm so happy we gave ourselves the space to do that because I think it helped us achieve our goals compared to other events that maybe only do one education session and all the pressure on getting everything out of it is on that one session. So
I think that's super true. Yeah. And as we're looking, further at it, we love to talk about some things that we love, and we've covered that already. But Logan, what are some more of your favorite moments from the Better Events Conference?
ooh, I think I can still hear the gasp, positive gasp, listeners, that our in-person attendees made when we did our CEO Day workshop, and we told them that they were writing a letter to future them. And the gasp came when we said, yes, you're going to seal it up, write your address on it, and the month this year that you want us to mail it to you, and we are going to mail them to you. And people it was like, oh, and it was just so cool because I think it was just very validating for a session that like you and I created, Mary, to see like I literally audibly got a surprise and delight out of them. And I'm so happy to have this stack of letters. We're not looking at any of them. They're sealed, that we get to mail out. And we're literally mailing letters to people from March all the way till December. We have people who want them different months. I don't know. That was that like warmed my heart of like, oh, we're doing something right.
Yeah, that was super fun. I definitely remember that moment as well. Another one from the in-person day that stuck out, which is just this is actually silly. The whole day had a lot of energy, but I was surprised at how many people stayed for happy hour, and that was actually a happy moment for me. I don't know, it was a nice way to kind of wrap up the day. So I maybe I felt some closure because of it. I don't know, or just the opportunity because Logan and I were hosting, right? So to be able to actually really interact with some attendees in that moment, that was the opportunity. So I really appreciated that. But what about from the virtual day, Logan? What's another one of your favorite moments from that?
Oh, I really liked our keynote. I love Evan Dunphy. He's an Olympic race walker. I think he it was like an unconventional, speaker, not necessarily somebody from the event industry or anything, but I still felt like it tied into our theme of growth and more listeners. We were really trying to challenge some of people's assumptions about growth, that growth didn't always mean more or the best. And I felt like he delivered such a good talk about different ways to think about growth from a professional athlete perspective, but like with some actual relatable messages. And I saw it going off in the chat, like certain people were like, oh, that clicked or that made sense for me. So that was really fun to see.
Yeah, I love that. I was going to say something similar, but I'll pick something different because there's lots of moments of happiness from that day. I would say the international panel, the panel on how to grow your career through international events. I thought that was really good, and I think we expected it to be good, but there were definitely a few moments that I felt were like little mic drop moments when I was like, "Oh wow, that's actually like a really good thought," or something like that. And I think a lot of our sessions provided moments like that, but that one personally for me stood out. I learned a lot, and it seems like other people did too, based on like the comments that were shared during the session and things like that. So that was one of my favorites as well.
Yeah, and one that's not recorded or available for replay that also stood out to me. And I wish so many of these sessions, I wish I was just an attendee, which is probably a good compliment to give ourselves. But the speed mentoring was really fun that we did virtually. And this was essentially like a group mentoring scenario where mentors came to a table, virtual table, quote unquote, of like 6 or 7 people. And they rotated it. We did like 3 rounds. So everybody got to talk to 3 different mentors. And from a logistics behind the scenes perspective, it took a lot of prep and practice, and our mentors were amazing and came to like a tech check with us to make sure they knew how to digitally do it. And then I think we just again anecdotally heard from some people that that was just such a fun session to be a part of, that it made me jealous. I wish I wasn't doing the wizarding behind the curtain and got to actually sit in these rooms and be mentored.
That was a wonderful one as well. So good call out. And then, so we've talked about some of our favorite moments, but what about lessons learned? We have to incorporate a little bit about that. So, Logan, what's something that we learned last year that we incorporated into this year's event? And this is actually a question that we got from an attendee. And so we're happy to answer that right now.
Wow, that's like, I feel like that would be like a year ago us. I mean, one piece that was just from like a front end perspective, I think Mary and I both loved year one being involved in a lot of sessions like speakers. But one of our takeaways personally was like we wanted to free ourselves up to get to enjoy some of the content more. And so we purposely in certain sessions, especially I would say, no, both days. I think we tried to make sure that we weren't the ones driving every session, just to give ourselves our own breather and to be able to like absorb the content from an attendee perspective. So I really liked that. I do think, Mary, like personally, I felt I was able to be a little more present than I think last year. The first year, I was so hung up on both trying to be the speaker, but also making sure everything was working behind the scenes. That felt like a positive adjustment we made.
Yeah, definitely. And looking back at some of our notes, we also talked about, to that point, like splitting up the sessions and what we're in charge of. So, like the planning and the execution of the event and our roles. And I think we did that this year. We really split up like certain sessions. So, we would have like panel prep calls that we would, Logan and I would split up, we'd individually on, but sometimes we'd attend them together. But we kind of had that ownership over those sessions, and we built out like session flows for each of them and what that was going to look like. And I think that was really nice, actually. I think that was a nice way to divide up the work, because like Logan said earlier, it was a lot of work. So it was nice to kind of have ownership over certain sessions. And I think what also gave us the opportunity to kind of like, I don't know, it was a moment of creativity too, to be able to come up with something that you wanted that session to be like. And so I thought that was actually kind of fun. So we implemented that this year versus last year. And some other lessons learned. Oh yeah, Logan, go ahead if you had
Yeah,
another one.
another piece that I this is again letting you guys behind the curtain, was from an equity perspective. It was really important to us this year to pay our speakers and to pay them equally. So we had the first year, it was one that we didn't necessarily pay speakers. We had some folks negotiate a little bit, but this was something for year two that we felt really strongly about, at least for in person versus virtual, that we were actually going to compensate with an honorarium. When I say pay, honorarium for speakers, and we gave them the option to get that as a gift card or a form of payment, or if they wanted it as a donation. So that was something that was behind the scenes, and I know I've just felt better about this year. Definitely from a business perspective, maybe not the smartest, but it is one that I think, just talking about values, that was something that was really cool.
Yeah, definitely. And we also were able to book speakers faster than last year. Last year, that was hard because we realized that most likely, right, really has something to do with ticket sales, because as you're releasing the agenda, like slowly, people want to see the full agenda so they know kind of what they're buying into. That makes perfect sense. And it's really hard to get so many speakers. So it still took us a lot of time, but we were able to do it faster and sooner than last year, which was nice for so many reasons. But that was a lot of work once again, but I'm glad that we were able to do that.
Yeah. And then I think virtually, on the virtual day, do you remember too, I was pleasantly surprised last year that folks really liked the conversation starters. I think for us, that had been like just a nice to have, like, let's just try this and see what happens. And we went off platform, off a swap card, which I thought was going to be a bigger deal, but folks really liked it and wanted more of it. And we did incorporate that this year. We had a couple more off platform, that speed mentoring that I mentioned, and a proposal power hour that were more interactive, that took us off platform into Zoom. And so we leaned into that more with this year. And I foresee us doing that potentially even more next year, just because again, I think the feedback has been that people are enjoying that connection time versus getting talked at.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a good call out as well. I think we had lots of lessons learned. That's the thing when you're planning your own event. I feel like you have even more than when you're like part of a client event giving feedback, right? And so we had lots of lessons even this year that I'm sure we're excited to implement in the future as well.
Well, last one Mary would even call out is that we did an in-person day.
That's
That was,
true. Yeah.
we had people last year, telling us, and I guess 2 years ago now at this point, 2023, were telling us, do an in-person day. And that was something that I will say, Mary and I did not come up with that on our own. That was us actively listening to, going, hey, folks asked for this. Let's sit down and actually game this out. And like, what does that even look like? So that was a big impact that we did on the conference from feedback.
Yeah, that's a great call out too. And yeah, I think like I'm excited to do this episode again in the future, because from that, I think this year we really truly have learned so much. But overall, I think I'm just surprised that like it worked. To be honest, is that bad to say? I mean, not everything worked, sure, but like overall, I mean, like it worked
It
out.
worked.
Yeah.
I like I think we both were pleasantly surprised, is really what it is. But also, I feel validated because it was part of our kind of, for lack of a better word, sales pitch we were making to people. And I stand by it, that there is no other event like this happening, at least in the US, that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
we are not trying to be an IMAX. We are not trying to be a trade show. Like, it is a different kind of event. And this year taught me that there is a passionate group of people who are so excited to have something like this to lean on as a resource and a community building opportunity. And that excites me. I think it is also challenging to do something that isn't out there already. So, yeah, I think that's a pleasantly surprised.
And as we're talking about the event, we'd be remiss if in this moment we didn't shout out our partners. This is just an extra shout out, but there, of course, are many people who make the event possible. Logan and I put a lot of work into it, but so do other people. And so we've already shouted out Luke and Caitlin, who were helping behind the scenes. Luke was our virtual producer, who was amazing, and he works with us a lot. He's Logan's brother. I'm going to shout him out. Luke's great. And then also Caitlin from my team, who was able to help with like some emails and things like that were coming in, because we could not keep our eyes on everything. As you know, it's just too much going on at one time. And then we also have our sponsors, our partners of the event that we want to shout out. So we were supported by Tourism Richmond. As a reminder, Logan and I went to Richmond mid 2024 and experienced all the wonderful things that Richmond has to offer. That's Richmond, BC. And so their CEO, Nancy, was able to actually come attend the event in person. And that was super, super fun. And so shout out to them. And then also shout out to Pro Event tips, Gabby. Gabby came in person as well from Salt Lake City, Utah, which was just amazing. And in fact, that's another pleasant surprise. We had a few people come from out of state, which was so fun, or even out of the country. And so Gabby, thank you. Thank you to Pro Event Tips for supporting the event. And Logan, do you want to shout out the rest of our partners?
Yeah, we had Event Pro Suite, who you're going to be hearing more from here in the next couple episodes on the podcast. That is a company that Jackie runs, and it is all about a suite of tools that are supposed to help us as event planners do what we do, but better. We also wanted to thank our partner for the venue on our in-person day, Courthouse Square in Tacoma. Event Badger, who provided us with our lovely wooden badges that everybody wore for our in-person day. And then our friends at Snap Bar, who did our virtual photo booth that several of you took advantage of. And we loved seeing your photos, both from the in-person day and virtually.
Definitely. Thank you to our sponsors and partners. We absolutely couldn't do it without you. So thank you so much. And so now you might have the question lingering in your head, what's next for the conference? So Logan, what's next? What can we tease? What can we say?
Well, first off, what is next, Mary? I will caveat listeners, we have not had our own personal podcast retreat yet at this point in time. Here in January, end of December with the conference, and then just life got busy. So we will be dropping probably some other news. We'll tease it in the next couple months. But short term, what's next for the conference, I will say, is you can actually go and watch the replays. So if you are someone who already bought a ticket, all of the sessions that were recorded are available for replay on the Swap Card platform. All you got to do is just log in like you normally did, and you should go back and you can watch, again, almost all of them. Like speed mentoring is not in there. Proposal power hour is not in there. Some of those things that we had that were live only. If you came in person, we didn't record any of the sessions, but some of our speakers have uploaded their slides and their resources if you want to go back there and download those. And then if you missed the opportunity to come at all live, you are able to still purchase the replays for, like we said, I would probably say 85% of the virtual day is recorded and available for replay. So you can purchase those replays now and actually get access to all of that content that we did last month.
Yeah, definitely. You don't want to miss out. Or if you feel like you missed out, there's your opportunity to take a peek. Now, that does bring us into the end of our episode about the conference, but we enjoyed sharing about it with you all. So thank you so much for listening. And before we're done, we have our bonus tip, of course, for today, which Logan has.
Yes, I have our bonus tip. And this one, it might be a little late for you if you've already done it, but this one's about vision boards. And Mary's going to giggle because, once again, Passion Planner is getting shouted out. They now have put a vision board page in the planner for you to cover up with your own vision board and actually like copy and paste and put things in. And so as I was preparing for that, I was doing a little bit of research of just some tips that people had for what to put on vision boards. I did this the last 2 years, but more just like a printout, I think, that I would hang up. And one of the tips that came across, I'd never heard this before, but it was to put not just photos and images and words of things you want, but to actually also put in pictures of things of you, of stuff you've already done, of things you've already like been on, because it tricks your brain by pairing the photos of what you've already done with the photos and the images of what you want to do. It makes the manifestation and the actual like, oh, I can actually be that more likely. So this was my first year. I actually included some photos of myself and me on site and the events I've worked, in addition to the things that I want to do on my vision board. So hopefully, if you haven't made it already, add some photos of you.
I love that so much. And also, if I can add on to your bonus tip, I made a vision board. I wasn't planning on doing it, but I made it in Canva because they have some great templates. And I made it my screensaver, my lock screen on my computer. And so when my computer locks I think I have it set for like every 5 minutes or something to save battery. I am like pleasantly surprised when I go back in. I'm like, oh, that's my vision board. So I actually look at it pretty often because it's my lock screen. So that was kind of fun for me to do. So thank you, Logan. Great bonus tip. Thank you, everybody, too, for listening to another week of the Better Events podcast. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Better Events Pod. You can also send us an email at bettereventspod@gmail.com. You can connect with Logan and I directly on LinkedIn. We love to hear from you. Just send us a note saying that you listen to the podcast so we know who you are. And then if you want to have more Better Events content, we invite you to join our private Substack community. You can find information on that in the show notes and on our website. And thank you so much for listening. We will be back in your feeds next Wednesday.